All right, guys, what's up? It's Jack, and welcome back to another video. And today I want to talk about the private matches that have been recently released, as well as the fact that I wanted to explain what beta actually means, because right now we're in beta form when it comes to this, as well as to further explain the insane potential that this actually has. Because over the last, I don't know, week or so, there are a lot of people that simply do not understand why it's in beta. And a lot of people, well, a lot of people from the super casual side of things that don't quite understand things in depth will be quick to say that the private matches is very underwhelming, and that it is overrated, and that content creators are blowing it up way beyond proportion. Now, obviously, content creators blowing things up way beyond in terms of other levels of excitement to the point to where they actually seem like they're bullshitting you is nothing new when it comes to the whole YouTube scene. There are content creators out there of a multitude of different games that really do bullshit you, that will be overly excited and it won't be legit. But at the same time, there are those that are overly excited and that it is legit. So I wanted to shed a little bit of light on this, so that way there could be a deeper understanding for those of you that are not as well knowledgeable on the topic in terms of the private matches and the potential that it actually has. Now, first of all, on Twitter, X actually said that in the future there is going to be a custom server browser in terms of private matches, which is a very huge deal. So that way you can actually seek out very specific settings and other lobbies and stuff like that in terms of a custom server browser in terms of the lobbies. Because for private matches, if you're looking for very specific things, and it makes things a lot easier as opposed to just looking for specific people that are in your friends list. So you can actually expand beyond your friends list. And another thing that actually makes this worth noting beyond what I just mentioned here is the fact that even when we get out of beta, right? Because right now we're in beta, and in season 3, in terms of private matches, we're going to get out of beta. But this means that even though we may get out of beta during season 3, it means that private matches is going to continue to get optimized as time goes on. Kind of like the netcode, it's going to continue to get optimized. Speaking of the netcode is going to be one of the major things in season 3 that's going to get updated to where we're going to feel a difference, according to Mark Rubin. And I'm still looking forward to that. I know a lot of you guys are as well. But anyway, back on topic here in terms of private matches. So going in further into what I want to talk about here, basically the biggest thing that well, first of all, it's in beta because it's being kind of stress test, so to speak, right? They have a quote unquote demo version of, or should I say a bare bones version of what private matches are, and basically have released them to the wild, right? So now people can actually invite their friends and they can have custom matches. Okay, but it is very bare bones. Now, why is it bare bones? Well, here we go. It's kind of like a beta for a release game, right? Or a yet to be released game, to where not all the content is there. So in other words, customization, content / features are what's missing from private matches. So what this means is you can't create, just to give you an example, you cannot create a 20-man free-for-all, for instance, right, in these private matches. Although when it gets out of beta, you will be able to do so probably, right? You can't create certain things like making very specific restrictions. So for instance, let's say you pick a faction, you won't be able to customize the faction in terms of what that faction can and cannot do. So let's say you only wanted to keep the passives, but you wanted to get rid of the ultras and you wanted to get rid of the abilities. Well, you can't do that currently, right? It's basically the way the rest of the game plays, but just the option to play it privately in a 6v6 or a 3v3 or whatever. But for the most part, there are very certain specific things you cannot do. You cannot change the way your health works. Like, for instance, if you don't like the way the health works now, you can't make it to where you can have like a hardcore mode to where you only have like 20% health instead of 100, right? So these are just the tip of the iceberg in terms of examples, but overall, this is exactly what this means. And this is why a lot of players are basically saying, or a significant amount of players in the community are saying, that private matches is something that is significantly underwhelming. And one of the things that I wanted to do also in this video is to basically, like, when you look at it, when you listen to everything that I just said, and as well as everything that, in terms of the news that X put out not too long ago over on Twitter, you put all that stuff together, going from beta to full and everything like that. I just wanted to also assure people that in time, the private matches system is going to continue to get optimized and continue to get better. And just an FYI, for those of you guys that are new around here, I'm not in cahoots with Ubisoft. I'm not, I don't have, I'm not in cahoots with them or anything like that. I'm not sponsored or anything like that. I'm just telling you of how I feel and how I believe things are set out to be, because it makes complete sense when you look at the tweets and when you put two and two together in terms of like the beta and then out of beta, et cetera, et cetera. So, and that's what it is basically. So in time, there's going to be continued features added on and stuff like that. And let's not mention the fact that in season 4, we're going to have bot mode. So what does that mean? And sure, multiplayer modes might have a few bots in them if people actually wanted to play that, to where you can have like, I don't know, let's say, like a 10v10 or whatnot, and 4 of the players on each team could be bots. Or it could be something, it could be something that to where you can play private matches with bots. So if you wanted to practice and you didn't want to just get in there and you wanted to warm up and just practice or whatnot because you wanted to add in bots, well, there you go. Now you've got the option to be able to do that. And I think a lot of players that really are very caring about getting better at the game, I think that's something that they could definitely take advantage of. It's also a really great way to warm up for some people, and it's also a really great way to test a few things out. I know that there's going to be a few players out there that may not be named Drifter or Exclusive Ace that are actually going to be doing something that's a little bit in depth, or they might want to test something that they literally cannot test in game, because how are you going to get a person on the opposite team to basically hold still while you test something? You simply can't. So when bots mode gets released in private matches, you're going to be able to do that, right? So if you also want to just like, obviously, there's the what's it called? There's the firing range or whatnot, to where you can do some testing and stuff like that. But when you get into private matches, you can take things to a whole other level, really, and it really just is limited to the creators or testers creativity, basically. So basically at this point right now, we're still very limited, so to speak, right? We still have a few shackles on us, despite the fact that private matches have already released. However, I am pleased to see that the majority of the community, whether it's content creators, most of them obviously are content creators because those are the only ones I see, but I'm sure that there are people that are not content creators that are also taking the full advantage of what we have right now as well. And of course, as mentioned before in previous videos, there's also a lot of events going on right now in terms of the competitive side. So the competitive side has, the wheels are finally starting to turn. And just one more thing I wanted to address as far as one of my previous videos that I put up recently is concerned. I know that some of you guys are concerned about the competitive side, and you don't want the competitive side to overtake everything else. And one particular comment, and I'm paraphrasing here, that I remembered is, it's like, take care of the pub side first and then competitive can come later. It's like, okay, yeah, I agree. But one thing I got to say is that I think both sides are also going to be catered to equally as best as possible. Although when the competitive side, first comes to fruition, I'm sure there's going to be a good amount of attention on there. However, that's not even going to start until year 2. So we're still 6 months away from something official, like official in terms of like, the XDefiant League or whatever the hell it's going to be called, I don't know, is actually going to be in full swing, right? So we're still 6 months away, and it makes sense because this game needs to be at a certain point before all that takes place, right? In terms of, the way private matches are put together, right? As far as restrictions and stuff like that, because the competitive players, the pro players, or the ones that, want to be pros, that they customize things very specifically. And, right now they're just getting a little bit of a taste, but they need further customization and features and the ability to restrict things or not restrict things and stuff like that, and be very specific. Because even when you look at the Call of Duty scene, the pros, when they go into private matches, that's one of the things that they definitely take advantage of, even, especially before ranked is released, right? Because right now in a lot of games, ranked is not released at launch, at least not all the time, right? Depending on the game. So what do? They go into private matches, they customize everything to the way they believe that it's going to be when it releases, or when ranked releases, or how they would play in a tournament, and they go from there. So right now, XDefiant is in beta form as far as that is concerned, because there's limitations that simply do not allow for that yet. However, I do believe that that's coming in season 3. And then you put bots into the mix in season 4, it's going to be even closer to completion. And then, of course, you know, I'm sure a lot of players are going to be requesting very specific things, and I'm pretty sure that the devs, if they see it's reasonable, they will oblige, and they will do it. So basically, I just wanted to basically get into very specifics about that and explain to people that are not necessarily as familiar. And at the same time, I also wanted to assure people that I very strongly feel, especially if you've been listening to this entire commentary, that it's only going to improve as time goes on. So the next update that we're going to get when it gets out of beta, I think it's going to be a lot less limiting, but at the same time, I don't think it's going to be done yet either. I think a lot of things are going to happen that will actually allow players to literally create things that'll also simultaneously give feedback to the devs, because they're always looking at the data, right? They're always looking at that data. So they're gonna be like, wow, a lot of people in private matches are doing this, or a lot of, you know, people have created this. Maybe we can turn this into game modes or limited time game modes. And if people really like it, maybe we can make it permanent. So again, this is just the tip of the iceberg, and we're just getting started. So anyway, guys, that's all I got for this one. You can let all ideas or anything you want to say down in the comment section below. And as always, I want to thank everybody for taking the time to watch and or listen. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll catch you guys on the next one.